Hello. Welcome to Funny Quotes, Bible Questions and Humor Sayings. This is a clean satire of some Bible parts, with a little humoristic twist. So let me tell you some funny questions and answers about the Bible. Question. What did God say after he created Adam? Answer. He said, "I can do better than that." And so, he created woman. Question. Who was the greatest female financier in the Bible? Answer. It was the Pharaoh's love daughter. Because she went down to the bank of the Nile and drew out a little profit. Oops, thought that should read, profit. Question. What kind of man was Boaz before he got married? Answer. Ruthless. Question. Who was the first drug addict in the Bible? Answer. It was Nebuchadnezzar. He was on grass for 7 years. Daniel 4:23-33. Question. What kind of motor vehicles are mentioned in the Bible? This one is a tricky question, and has many possible answers. Possible answers are: first possible answer, Yahweh, because he drove Adam and Eve out of the garden in a fury, because Fury was an automobile produced by Plymouth from 1955 to 1989. Second possible answer, Israel's triumph could be heard after the death of Goliath. 2 Samuel 17:52, New Living Translation. Everyone knows that Triumph was a British automobile produced from 1921 to 1984. Third possible answer, Honda. Because Acts 2:12 says the apostles, "We are all in one accord." An automobile produced in the beginning of 1976. Fourth possible answer. In Psalm 83, the Almighty clearly owns both the Pontiac and a Geo. The passage urges the Lord to pursue your enemies with your tempest and terrify them with your storm. Psalm 83:15. Fifth possible answer. God may favor Dodge pickup trucks. Since the Israelites were warned not to follow Moses up on the mountain until the ram's horn sounds a long blast. Exodus 19:13. And finally, the sixth possible answer. Corinthians 4:8 describes a group traveling in a Volkswagen Bug when it says, "We are hard pressed on every side." Question. Who was the greatest financier in the Bible? Answer. Noah. He was floating his stock, while everyone else was in liquidation. Question. Who was the greatest comedian in the Bible? Answer. Samson, of course. He brought the house down. As mentioned in Judges 6:30. Question. Where is the first baseball game in the Bible? Answer. In the very beginning. Eve stole first, and Adam stole second. Then, Cain struck out Abel. The giants and the angels were rained out. Question. How did Adam and Eve feel when they were expelled from the Garden of Eden, as mentioned in Genesis 3:23-24? Answer. They were really put out. Question. What is one of the first things that Adam and Eve did after they were kicked out? Answer. They really raised Cain. Question. What excuse did Adam give to his children as to why he no longer lived in Eden? Answer. Your mother ate us out of house and home. Genesis 3:6. Question. The ark was built in 3 stories. The top one had a window to let the light in. How did the bottom 2 stories get light? Answer: they used floodlights. Question: who is the greatest babysitter mentioned in the Bible? Answer: David, because he rocked Goliath to sleep. Question: why was Goliath so surprised when David hit him with the slingshot? Answer: the thought had never entered his head before. Question: if Goliath would come back to life today, would you like to tell him the joke about David and Goliath? Answer: no, he already fell for it once. Question: what is the best way to get to paradise? Answer: turn right and go straight. Yay! Question: according to the Bible, which of Yahweh's servants was the most flagrant lawbreaker? Answer: Moses, because he broke all 10 commandments at once. Question: which area of the promised land was especially wealthy? Answer: the area around the Jordan where the banks kept overflowing. Whoa! Question: how do we know that Job went to a chiropractor? Answer: because Job 16:12 says, all was well with me, but he seized me by the neck. Question: where is the first tennis match mentioned in the Bible? Answer: when Joseph served in Pharaoh's court. Question: which Bible character had no parents? Answer: Joshua, son of Nun, said in Joshua 1:1. Question: why didn't Noah go fishing? Answer: he only had 2 worms. Question: how do we know that they played cards in the ark? Answer: because Noah sat on the deck. Question: where is a square dance class mentioned in the Bible? Answer: in Jonah 4:11. That says, there are more than 120,000 people who cannot tell their right hand from their left. Well, we got to the end, as we all know. But for some that don't, it's all a silly and funny joke, and no one should take anything said and mentioned here seriously.